Hello and welcome to a live episode of the Leveraging AI podcast, a podcast that shares practical, ethical ways to leverage AI to improve efficiency, grow your business, and advance your career. This is Isar Meitis, your host, and I am really excited about today's show. First of all, I was able to rig my stand-up desk to get all my new equipment. So I have a new, bigger 32-inch monitor and like a fancy camera on a pole and like lighting and everything. And I was able to rig all of that to my stand-up desk. So I'm standing up again, which is something I didn't do for a few months. So I really love doing these lives when I'm standing up because I feel that I'm a lot more energetic that way. So that's once. But the topic is a very important topic, and we have an amazing guest. So what is the topic? The question that I'm going to ask you is, what is the most important thing in a business? And I know that depending on what you are, you think different things. So marketing people thinks it's marketing, and HR people think it's the people, and finance thinks that cash flow is the most important. And the reality is the most important thing in a business is clients, because you can have a business without marketing, without HR, without customer service, and with no finance team, but you cannot have a business without clients. So hence, understanding your clients, who they are, what their needs, what are their wants, what drives them to action, and how to engage with them in an effective way is maybe the most important aspect of a business. The reality is, most businesses, and probably you listening as well, are investing very little time and energy in actually understanding our clients. So if you do understand your clients better, you can serve them better, you can communicate with them better, you can be more effective in everything that you're doing, which will get you happier customers, which will make you a more successful business. Meaning, this is a very critical topic that we don't give it enough attention. And this is exactly the topic we're going to dive into today, is how to have a better understanding of who your clients are, how to communicate with them, what are their wants, their needs, and so on. Our guest today is Joe. Joe has been in the marketing and e-commerce space for a very long time. And in the past year and a half, she's been doing this with AI. And her process involves how to accumulate data and collect data from multiple different sources and build a client persona that is very accurate and build an actual customer avatar that you can connect with, that you can talk to, and develop real insights, validate tactics and strategies in order to grow your business based on that. That's, as I mentioned, is a critical topic to every single company, and hence why I'm really excited to welcome Joe to the show. Joe, welcome to Leveraging AI.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be part of your show.
I'm really excited to have you. We've been trying to do this particular show for a while now, and I'm excited we're finally here. Let's dive right in, right? We have people on LinkedIn, we have people on Zoom that are waiting to talk about this topic. I'll really give you the stage. I know you got this process figured out very well. And so let's just dive right in, and I'll just ask questions. If you're in the audience, please feel free to ask questions. And if you're not here, by the way, come join us. We do this almost every Thursday, and you can join us either on LinkedIn, we go live there, or if you want to join us here on Zoom, you can do that as well. But Joe, the stage is yours.
Awesome, thank you. So my name is Joanna Lambadjieva. I'm the founder of a company called Amazing Wave, which helps specifically e-commerce and marketing teams integrate AI in their processes and also train their team on how to develop a AI mindset and AI-powered processes. As you said, I have been in this game for quite a while. My sort of journey was more of the classic journey of working with a lot of clients. So I had a lot of stories. And then in the last 2 years since I started working with AI, like this kind of spark and passion for AI and the tangent between what I used to do before and now with AI, how it's like super powered essentially came in. And so yes, I'm really excited. I'm actually from Bulgaria, so this is where I'm sitting today, but I normally live in Germany. And actually today I wanted to share with you a few quite detailed slides about specifically understanding your customer. Now, my background is very much focused on e-commerce, but this applies to pretty much any category, whether you are B2B or a B2C company, because it's just a sort of a foundational principle of understanding who you are selling to, whatever you're selling to. So if you don't mind, I will share some slides.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okie dokie. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Sweet. All right. Without further ado. Now, generally, I think it's really important when we'll talk about practical, how you use it, how like you use AI to build a customer persona, how to use that information then further on. But I think it's really important to first set the scene of what you need in order to really understand your customer. And you can approach this in very many different ways, but I like as a minimum to develop three key, I guess, knowledge points about your customer. So the first one is to define your customer persona. So who is your core customer? What are their main KPIs? What are their responsibilities? And how do they how do they perceive your product? What are the important things for them in terms of benefits? What do they maybe don't like or struggle with? That's point number one. The second thing is to define their customer pains. So what are the pain points and what annoys them and what could stop them from completing their job? Or as I said, what is it that they maybe do not like about your product or the products within your category? The next sort of key pillar is what are the sort of the customer gains. So what do they gain from successfully completing their job, whether it's in their business life or in their personal life? Just understanding what are the positives that they are searching for within the context of your business and your product. Now, generally, when I built these three main key pillars, you can do a lot of things, but one of the things that I use this information for is to develop an amazing content that speaks to your customer. And that is generally the most efficient way to actually convert, like in the long term. But before I start talking specifically, I think it's always good to recap what is a customer persona, because I think a lot of people talk about their customers, but they don't necessarily always go through the due diligence of developing this customer persona. And generally, customer personas are a fictional representation of your ideal customer. And the best way to develop one of those is to use actual data from your existing customers. And we'll talk a little bit in a second about what kind of data we're talking about, but I think it's really important to emphasize the importance of data underpinning of this whole exercise. And again, why do you need one? So obviously you can do everything from being more, when you know who you're talking to, you know where to talk to them. So you can be far more targeted with your marketing. You can be far better with what you're saying to them and far more compelling. But I think a lot of people forget that in order to develop a good strategy, just in general for your company, or like a good product even, you need to understand who are you selling this product to. And this is where, again, a customer persona is really helpful, because it essentially allows you to take that as a foundational starting point and develop everything else. I think a lot of companies assume certain things about their ideal customer, and like later on, after a product has been developed, they realize that maybe certain features or certain elements of their product are maybe not what the customer needs. And that is because a lot of the time there's the founder's bias versus the actual insight coming from knowing the customer that you're selling to. So this is why customer persona is actually super efficient way to start anything within your business.
I want to add two little things that are directly related to that. One is that we have the benefit today that the data is out there. 10 years ago, the only way to get this was to actually do surveys, hoping somebody will fill out your surveys, hoping that somebody is actually really your target audience, and trying to collect information through that way, which was really painful, really tedious, and not many companies could afford. And now the data on your clients are literally everywhere, because for most companies, their clients are on social media one way or another. They work at another company. So you can find information about the company they're working at. You can find out anything you want about that company. You can find people who work there. You can find what they're interested in. You can find where they went on vacation last month because they're going to post it on Instagram. And even if they won't, their kids will. So you can, there's literally, the data is there. And what we're going to learn today, and that's why I'm very excited about it, is how to harness AI to harvest all that data that is out there in order to help really understand that persona. So that's number one. Number two is the fact that I've ran several different businesses. They were all software companies. And this was before the age of AI and data collection. And what Joe said is so true. Like sometimes you think you know what you're developing, whether it's a service or a product, because you think that's what your clients will want, when in reality, it's not exactly. And you would spend sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in creating a thing that is not exactly what your clients are looking for. And they're going to go somewhere else because somebody did hit their exact taste, their exact need, their exact pain point in the way that solves it better for them and can communicate it, going back to leverages to build marketing content and can communicate it to them better than you. And you're going to lose every single time. And so it's A, really doable right now. B, provides a key to success in literally any business.
100%. I think this is it. Obviously the age of internet provided so much empowerment to the world. The age of AI is like that 10 times on steroids, much faster. And so I think anyone right now should be very excited because the possibilities are there and they're so rich and so powerful. So anyway, before we get really excited, I'm gonna talk to you about data because that's obviously the most exciting thing. So I am like, I would definitely admit that I'm a total nerd. I love dealing with any kind of data. Give me a good Excel spreadsheet and a nice big fat pivot table and I'll be happy. And honestly, I think this, if you want to produce anything that is really precise and really helps you understand kind of the detail, data is your first step in building that customer persona. And so I just want to chat a little bit about the data points that you would use to like then feed an AI model to get that customer persona, because this is, to be fair, this is, I would say, 80% of what you really need to do. It's collecting really good and solid data. So depending on what your business is and depending on who your customer is, as Isar said, there is so many ways to get that data. And the cool thing is that the data that you collect nowadays doesn't have to be just in the form of an Excel spreadsheet with loads of rows and a lot of columns, right? So the powerful thing about AI is that it can transform even things like visuals into data. And that is where I get really excited. So I'm going to talk about this in a second, but I'm just going to go through the classical Excel spreadsheet type of data. So obviously, any sort of customer service, if you have, this is goldmine. What people don't realize is that even if they are a complete startup, they don't have a single customer, their competitors would have customers who would have left signals all over the internet, which is right there, available data for them to use to model their customers. So one of these places is Trustpilot. Trustpilot is super, super great, and you can scrape it. You can do like a dumb copy paste even if you want to. Like generally recommend scraping. If scraping is better do good old copy paste. You can go for Google reviews. If you are in the e-commerce space, like Amazon is the ultimate library about knowing what customers like or dislike about pretty much any product out there. And there's so many products with so many reviews. And there is, for example, tools like in the e-commerce space, Helium 10, which is a Chrome extension you can put on your browser and you can scrape all of these reviews in a nice Excel spreadsheet. So there's so much of that like product, like physical product data you can use. From your own website, like you can use any sort of Google Analytics data. obviously, as I said, you can use competitor reviews, but you can also use their websites as another data point, because your competitors probably understand very well how they should talk to their customers, which are probably your target customers. So you can either copy paste, screenshot, scrape, whatever is your method, their own websites, and analyze, okay, so who are they talking to? Who is the customer that they're talking to at that point? And what is really interesting, and most people don't realize, is that you can use like tools like ChatGPT, if you have absolutely zero data, to actually help you build a customer persona based off just of the product that you have. You can easily ask ChatGPT, okay, this is my product, these are the features, these are the problems that it solves. Who do you think is the right customer persona? Of course, this is like last point scenario. You ideally want to have the data, but this could be still a very good foundational point.
I'll add one thing to connect like the AI to those other tools and the scraping and so on, which is you can even start, and I do this for myself and I do this for some of my clients. You can even start by using either ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity. So any AI that has internet access, and actually Gemini won't do it, they won't allow you to do it, but ChatGPT does it and Perplexity does it very well, is give it profiles of actual people on LinkedIn. So go to the LinkedIn profiles of your competitors' clients. If you have nothing, like you're starting from zero. Okay, here are 20 people that I want to build a persona around. Help me build a customer persona for that based on their sociographic, geographic, experience, education, and all of that. And it will build an incredibly detailed customer persona profile for you based on just literally 20 links of people. So you can, what I said before, the data is out there. You don't even have to know anything about scraping. And don't get me wrong, everything Joe said is brilliant. Get the data if you can. But if you're either lazy, don't have the time, or there's no data about the stuff you're looking for, find LinkedIn profiles of either your dream customers or your competitors' customers and take as many as you can. Just 20 would be enough, or 5 would be enough, but it's not going to be as accurate. And just ask it based on that. And it's going to give you an amazing profile that then you can build on top to do everything else.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this is just to add to that. Again, think creatively about your customer persona. So this, what you just mentioned is a perfect example for a B2B customer. But if your customers are, for example, just consumers and they are in the space, guaranteed what you can do is take screenshots of their Instagram feeds, take screenshots of their Facebook feeds where they talk about your product, and use this information, like use visuals to further enrich the data you have on the customer. Because of course you can just add very simple, all right, Mary, she's 55, she is suburban. But then if you actually add like examples of Marys within your target, and add like that additional layer of what are their interests, what are they passionate about through their like actual, let's say, social media content, then the profile becomes so much more rich and informative. So again, be creative with like all of the data points, because even just an image can be a really powerful source of insight for who that customer is.
Yeah.
All right. So now this is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Now we're going to go for it. Yes.
Now we're going to go for it. Okay. I think step one is always about picking what you're going to use. And here I would, from my own personal experience, I generally like to use ChatGPT when there is a lot of data that includes like numerical based data. And I like to use Claude when there is a lot of text-based data. I think ChatGPT's sort of code, like advanced analytic extension, which is based on Python, is far more superior than Claude in terms of analyzing numerical based data. But Claude is amazing when it comes to understanding semantics. So I think it's just good to bear that differentiation between. So in this situation, what I've done here is I've used ChatGPT, and I've taken a bunch of Trustpilot reviews. I have taken the demographic data of the main target audience for this particular brand, which is, it's essentially a B2B company, and I'll talk about that on the next slide, but they target other companies. So we are going for not a consumer brand, we're talking about B2B. Now, the first thing I like to do is, and this is actually not shown here, is the first thing you need to do is make sure that your data is well formatted and prepared for the use of an AI, and obviously make it as clear as possible. If I have a lot of complicated Excel spreadsheet data, I will be even far more prescriptive with my prompt about what is in the Excel spreadsheet, but this specific data set was very basic. But I've still said you are a world-class audience analyst who helps companies analyze their audiences based on various types of data. Firstly, analyze this data about our audience. One file includes demographic data and the other includes Trustpilot reviews. Do not respond with anything, just analyze it and say done. Now, if I have to be even more pernickety about this, I would specifically name the files, explain what's in the files. But actually, I've seen that even with such a simple, with a simple data set, this prompt works. The one thing I would say is that it's really important, at least from an efficiency point of view. I've noticed that it's far better to first feed the data, get the model to read it and analyze it first, and then to go for the big ass prompting that comes afterwards.
So I want to add 2 points to what you said, just to make it more technical and specific on the how-to. One, with regards to, you said give it clean, simple data. As humans, we like to create Excel tables that have colors and spaces and a one black column between Q1 and Q2 and two red lines between those types of people and this confuses the hell out of the AI. The other thing we like to do is we like to put 3 or 5 different tables on the same tab because we want to look at different aspects of the data in one place, and that also confuses the hell out of it. And so the right way to have data ready and easy for these AI platforms to read is to create the most simple flat table you can. No spaces, no gaps, same formatting for everything, no 2 different tables on the same tab, and save each tab as a CSV versus as an XLSX. You get much better results. So if you have 3 or 4 tables on the same sheet that you used to right now, and you have all the colors and spaces and everything you like, because as humans, it makes it easier for us to follow, just create images of them, like basically a replica of it in the second tab. So cell A1 equals cell A1, cell A2 equals cell, but then don't include all the fancy stuff and separate the tables into 3 different tabs, save each of the tabs as a CSV file, and then upload as 3 different files. And as Joe said, keep logical naming conventions when you name those CSVs so the AI knows what they are, and give it 2 sentences on each one. This first file named blah, 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 blah is the second file is this, and you'll get much more consistent result than if you just upload it and hope for it to figure it out. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to mention with regards to the prompt itself and just starting with an intro, what I always do at the end of that intro, and just instead of just telling it to digest and not do anything, I ask it to tell me what's in the data and what insights can be gained from that. And A, sometimes it gives me idea I didn't think about, but B, more importantly, it helps me understand that the AI really understands the data, because it's going to tell me, okay, here are all the different columns. Here's what's in the columns. Here's what insights you can get. I'm like, okay, you got it. You understand what's in here. Now let's go to work. So very similar approach, just one small little twist in the end.
Nice. Thanks for the tip. So yeah, the next sort of step from this prompt chain is then to specifically tell the model what exactly I want. You are a world-class audience analyst who helps companies analyze their audiences based on various types of data. You're especially talented in building customer personas. And then I've given instructions. I am very specific about how many sort of customer personas I want. And here is a little caveat. I think it's really good to use AI to analyze data. That's great. But I think it's always better for you to have done a little bit of analysis before, in terms of, for example, like, what is the statistically relevant, like how many statistically relevant customer personas do you expect? Because in a situation, you might have actually just one customer persona, like one, like very distinct, like main audience, and then you don't need three, right? I know from this data that there is three fairly big, like, different customer personas because of the data that I fed. But you need to do this due diligence for yourself beforehand. Don't expect that the AI will magically know that the right number is 1 or 3 or 5 or 10. So be your own data analyst before you fit it into the AI.
Agreed.
And then I add, for me, it's always important, and I think this is actually for any prompt of worth, it's always really important to add as much as possible context. In this situation, I've added a context about who our target audience is and who is our company. This is a made-up company, but essentially, what does our company do? What is our main product? Who is generally our audience, and what is our kind of like main USP? And then I am very like prescriptive with my criteria about what the AI needs to spit out. So I have given it here about 15, 16 points of how to build my customer persona. This doesn't have to be the format that you guys use. It can be 3 points, it can be 20. It's totally dependent on what you want to learn about that customer and what is going to be then helpful when it comes to the next step of what you're using these customer personas with. So I've set my clear criteria, and now the next step is getting the output. Do
Well,
you have anything to add?
let's go through your list, because I think people who haven't done this can at least get ideas from your list of 20 things.
Sure. So my criteria is, please provide the following points for each customer persona. So we have name, age, gender, location, whether it's urban, suburban, or rural, education level, income bracket, professional goals and challenges, psychographics, values and beliefs, attitudes towards our product or services, media consumption, goals and motivations, what they try to achieve personally and professionally, key factors that drive their purchasing decisions, how they like to receive information, whether it's email, social media, or something else, frequency of communication they're comfortable with. So this is very extensive, and I really would nail who that person is, how they like whatever they like, and how can I reach them.
Fantastic. I want to add one thing as far as, again, efficiency of using this. For those of you like, oh my God, I got to type all of this every single time, the answer is no. You create a prompt library where you either save the whole thing if you do the thing again and again, or most likely the different segments that are then used like building blocks that you can reuse. So the segment that talks about your company is one segment. The segment that talks about your product or service is a second segment. The segment that talks about what you're looking for and the output is a third segment, because then you can mix and match and build different stuff with those different components. But once you develop them once and you're happy with the results, save those to a library somewhere that you can reuse them.
100%. What kind of library do you normally use? Are you a Notion man, or
Ooh,
like?
so those who've been listening to this podcast for a long time know, but I use a Chrome extension called Magical, which is
Mhm.
actually like a text expander. So you can save a lot of text and then give it a shortcut, and it runs in Chrome, so it's available everywhere. And you can save libraries, so different libraries for different types of prompts, and you can share different libraries with different people in your domain. So if you have a company account, then you can share a marketing thing with the marketing people and whatever other stuff with other people. And the cool thing about it, because it works in Chrome, all I have to do, so the prompts that I use a lot, like my company info, I literally would save as my company info as one word. And then when I
Mm,
type my company info as one word, it will replace that with a whole page of text.
really
And so I use that across all my things. And the benefit versus a Notion or a Google Doc or one of those is that I don't have to go and open Notion, find the right segment, find the document, search for my prompt, copy and paste. All of that goes away. I literally type, in many cases, 4 characters. Like when I do my news every single week. So those of you who've been listening to this podcast, there's a news episode. to do a news summary, I literally type news sum, and then it's like a page and a half of instructions on how to create the format that then I use to record the podcast. But it's a great tool as a prompt library, even though it wasn't built for that. I've been using it about 5 years before AI even became a thing. I use it for a lot of other stuff.
Very cool. I'm gonna make a note of it. Right. So then obviously the AI comes back with example profiles. Now, again, I think it's really important that when you get to the result, don't just assume that this is right. So you basically want to read this and from your knowledge about your customer, sense check that. And again, go back to the data and see, is this actually matching the data? Is this matching what I had in mind? Sometimes it's not, it's off. And in this case, you want to reprompt and like get maybe even more specific with your context, more directional in terms of what you're building. So this is, you now have a customer persona. Now you want to build off that customer persona, then a library of that person's pains and gains so that you get an even richer image of them. So it's basically, you would continue in that same prompt chain. You continue with asking the AI model what causes the persona's pain whilst trying to complete their job successfully, go into detail and be specific about what annoys them and what could stop them from completing the job and achieving their KPIs. And then I've basically given an additional sort of condition, which is break this down into sections for each customer persona. Because the more you understand the challenges, like the more you can tailor you, like how you speak to them, like the topics you even speak to them. By tackling what like peeves them, you can position your product as the answer to that. So it's a really powerful tool to understand what these people are unhappy with. And the reality is that you can keep drilling. So give me a list of the pain relievers for each persona. These are things that our services can do to alleviate the identified pains of the persona. And so I immediately almost get if you wish, a content calendar of things that I can help this person with. And it just, the more you drill in, the more you can get a richer picture of the person. Same thing for
Fantastic.
gains. Yeah, I think it's very similar. You basically build yourself a library of insight for, who this person is. When you don't just focus, if you are, for example, selling a business product, don't just focus on the business persona of that human. Think about who they are and the sort of their whole psychology. I think there is so much to be said about the personal perspective of, okay, so what drives that individual? Because a lot of the time they're like personal motivators have direct implications on their business decisions and like purchasing decisions from a business point of view. And if you understand that, then you can tailor again your product, your content, your marketing to that.
I agree 100%. I want to add something and connect a few of the dots that we did before. One of my clients sell a CRM platform. And so they don't have a lot of reviews. They're a much smaller company, but if you go on G2, you can find a gazillion reviews, positive and negative, on HubSpot and Salesforce, which you can scrape with a tool like Clay or Apify or whatever other scraping tool. So you can have thousands of positive and negative reviews, which then you can run through an AI to help you identify what are the things people hate the most about Salesforce or HubSpot. What are things they're struggling with? What problems does it solve for them? So in G2, those of you who don't know, G2 is a big software comparison and review platform, but it has 3 columns. What do you like about this product? What you don't like about this product? What problems does it help you solve? So the AI doesn't even have to figure it out. The data is actually there, already defined to the categories. All it has to do is to aggregate it for you, which AI is actually exceptional at, is finding similarities and aggregating data. So you can find these kind of data sources about your competitors and help it with this kind of analysis, right? The gains, the pains, the pain relievers, like all of that, for not for everything, but for a lot of stuff, that data is available. So instead of just hoping that the AI is going to get it right, or at least get you a good starting point, you can actually import the data from existing sources and use that to help the AI give you better and more accurate results.
Yeah, 100%. I use that a lot, for example, for Amazon reviews to understand and to actually inform, for example, new product development decisions. So what people are unhappy with existing products, how can we improve that product then?
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the picture of your customer. Now you have a customer like idea of who that customer persona is, what are their pains, what are their gains. So now you basically can take all of this insight. If you want, create yourself a little database, because this is going to be super useful, whatever you do in the future, and then basically start actioning it. So you have all of this information, now what? The first thing is, again, as I mentioned, you can build your strategy. You can build like your products better. From my perspective, and a lot of what I speak with marketers about, is you can influence your entire content marketing strategy and any part of it. And just think about this as one piece of insight that you can then plug in whatever you're doing, and you can still use AI. So you can still, for example, work with AI to build like a strategy plan for your company, or use it as a brainstorm buddy. But the context about who your audience is should always be part of your prompt, because that is what then the insight will be based out of, or like any sort of recommendation that the AI is going to give you is going to take that as a source of truth. And if we're just talking about marketing content, which I think is just like one specific niche, you can use that information to dictate anything from tone of voice to these specific topics in any sort of like written type of content. But the cool thing is that if you want to take it a step further, you can also take that and inform any sort of like prompts that you would feed into an image AI maker, like image content generator. So it's just, I just wanted to show like a little bit of what you can achieve by using this sort of like rich customer image, like persona, like module, if you wish. And then what you use it for, there's so many different uses, but yeah, use it. So this
I'll
is
add
like,
one more thing, because I think it's brilliant, like using this to create images that will speak to them. And again, you can consult with the AI, like I'm creating this kind of campaign for this kind of product, for this kind of audience. What do you think will resonate with them and why? So that's step one. But then today you can create videos with AI, including like avatar videos, and the avatar you pick can be old, young, female, male, oriental, European, black, white, like literally whatever you want. So you can even customize the speaker to be the thing that will probably have the highest influence on your audience, any language. Like all of that is doable today without having a studio and an actor and somebody who speaks the language and a script. Like the script can be generated based on this information, like your product information, company information, pain points, customer persona. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to promote. I need a script for 30 seconds and it will generate it for you. And you can feed it to a tool like HeyGen or Synthesia or any of those tools and pick different personas to speak to the relevant target audiences. So there's really no end to how you can use the information once you know who the target audience and what they will resonate with.
yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, like what I think people are not realizing is that all of this became available at such a high quality only after pretty much a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I just think about what was AI half a year ago, like what was AI a year ago. Just imagine where we're going to be once SOAR comes out and all of these super advanced models that we don't even have access to. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Yes.
This was me.
Oh, then try again.
All right. This was what I wanted to share.
Yeah, I want to talk about one more thing that you mentioned in our previous call that I'm very curious about. You said you're actually using it to create like a GPT that you can talk to, that is your
Yes,
target
yes, yes,
audience. And I
yes.
think that's really cool. So let's jump to that.
Sure. Actually, I didn't include that in the slides, but anyway, I'm going to talk you through. So one of the
Yes.
things that I really love to use ChatGPT and AI for is then taking this information that we just ran through, like this actual customer persona, and then creating essentially a chatbot, which is that person. And so what I do, like when I do this, I can literally speak and ask that person about pretty much anything. And it all depends on how you configure your custom GPT to like what the output you want it to be. But just the simplest thing is I want to sense check whether the content I'm producing is biased based on what I like, or whether it's actually fitting my customer persona, whether that would be something that they would like, because I'm not always my target audience. And so this is a really brilliant way to be like, okay, what about this copy? Is this talking to you? Would you buy this? What about this kind of action plan in terms of, let's say, marketing? Would you use these channels, right? And you have a really great way to sense check your thinking by technically speaking to your customer. And the more you feed it with data, like whether it's reviews or any other sort of little touch points that actual customers have left, the more accurate also the responses are. So it's a really small little hack, but it's really powerful to just speak to that person without having to speak to actually any human.
Yeah, I think that's really brilliant. That's something I haven't done. I'm doing something similar to this when I'm changing stuff on my website. So I will take literally a screenshot of a full page of a landing page or something that I'm developing before I take it live. And I take a screenshot of my competitor's landing page that talks about the same thing. And I will tell it who the target audience is. And I'll
Nice.
actually ask it to rank it based on different aspects and give me recommendations on what I need to fix. So don't even think just in the means of chat. You can literally, quote unquote, share a screen, take screenshots, use A/B test graphics. Like, I want to put this graphics or that graphics. Which one do you think is going to work better? Now, does that guarantee you it's actually going to work better? No, I'm still a big believer in real life A/B testing. But by the way, if you feed the actual real life A/B testing results into the persona later on, then you're going to get better and better results. So I think it's an absolutely brilliant idea. And if you think about it, what we used to do traditionally as marketers is actually have a review group from potential customers. That will cost a hell of a lot of money and cost a hell of a lot of time. And that will not guarantee anything, right? It still wasn't a foolproof. Yes, that the fact that 10 people said it means that now 100,000 will say the same thing. So we have a cheat that is free that allows you to have a conversation with something that resembles your target persona on anything and bounce ideas back and forth and fine tune your copy and so on, which is nothing short of magic. So I think as an idea, it's an absolutely brilliant. And as you mentioned, you set it up once, you tweak it over time as you learn more when you actually execute, and you just get better and better in tweaking and doing that. I'll say one more thing about, you mentioned about creating copy based on persona. Just because we've done it recently in episode 118 of the podcast, it's called the AI Blueprint for LinkedIn Success, crafting content that converts. And so what we did is something similar to this, but focusing more on the content side, but we started very similar. So if you want to learn more about, oh my God, now that I have the persona, how to actually build content with it, that sounds like me, that will resonate with the target audience, go back once you're done with this episode, scroll back to episode 119 and listen to that. This
One thing
was
I actually just wanted to just add, because actually I'm really excited about it, is, and adds to this, is watch out what's going to happen when ChatGPT advanced voice and vision becomes
oh
available,
my God.
because then you can literally talk to that customer. And then, because it's one thing, like if you think about how we interact right now, mostly with these chatbots, the AI tools that we work on day-to-day basis, we type, right? And typing has obviously it's one way to convey information, but it's slower. You have to be intentional. There is a lot of signals that are not conveyed because you're typing. When we get access to like the advanced voice that ChatGPT is rolling out, we'll be able to talk to an AI model that is trained to our customer persona and have a normal conversation with them with all of the information which is included with our voice, our like spur of the moment thoughts, anything that is in our environment. Then it will become just so powerful, and then it becomes like a really interesting even further too.
I agree with you 100%. It's a very big difference. I still do this now, even though it's a little slow and there's like a delay, especially when like I'm walking my dog and I want to test something. I would open like the ChatGPT app and I will click on the microphone and we'll have a conversation with it. It's actually pretty cool. It works pretty well. It doesn't work as fast and as efficient and as good as the new advanced model that will eventually get. And when I say eventually, it might be tomorrow. They already started releasing it and rolling it out to a limited. One more thing that I wanted to add that people should know about bouncing ideas against your quote unquote target persona once you create it. So I use a tool called ChatHub. It's a Chrome extension. And what you can do with it is you can run multiple AIs in the same prompt. So you basically, I use four, but you can use, I think, up to six. But you can pick four AI bots, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Llama 3. And you prompt them with the same thing and you get responses from all of them at the same time. And you can continue the conversation with all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
And so if you build that target persona once, so now you have, here's 2 pages that describe my target persona. All you have to do is go to ChatHub or a similar tool. It doesn't have to be, I'm not affiliate with them or anything, just a great tool. And put in, say, okay, this is my target audience. I want to test this kind of copy. Here's the copy that I want to put out there. What do you think is going to resonate better? What would you change? And you're going to get responses from 4 different large language models, even though you do the same exact work. And then you'll see, okay, 3 of them agree on this. That probably a stronger sign that this is either good or bad, depending what was the feedback. One of them said that if that was your one, you can decide whether that's more important to you or less important to you. But it's going back to what I said before, it's having a review group without doing any extra additional work other than having access to the right tool. So that's just another way to bounce ideas through these AIs and get more ideas. When I do ideation stuff, when it comes to, I want to create content, I want to improve my course, I want to do this, I always go back to this tool just because then I can mix and match ideas from the different chats. And you'll see that 75% is going to be the same and 25% is going to be different. And that 25% might give you a great idea on something, something you want to do. So it's a great way to do that.
100%.
Awesome. Joe, this was fantastic. So before I let you go, if people want to find you, work with you, follow you, what are the best ways to do that?
Okay. The easiest thing is you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can email me on joe@amazingwaves.digital. And I also have a newsletter which you can subscribe to, which is ai4ecommerce.com. So you can
Awesome.
pick any of those.
A few more things because there's questions from the audience. So one person asked about ChatHub if there's not only 2 things to compare. Yes, if you use the free version, it's only 2 side by side. I have the paid version, so you can go up to 6, which I never do. I always use 4, and then they're big enough and I can see what I'm doing. And that gives me enough ideas to do the thing. There was a question about Europe. And since you are in Europe, I think that's a very relevant question to you, that Europe has a lot more limitations on what data you have access to, what AIs you can use. How do you go around that with everything you shared with us?
Okay, yes. Europe is a little complex when it comes to data, specifically from customers. Obviously, we have the GDPR framework that regulates all of the data processing in Europe. Okay, so in terms of tools you can use, I think so far, thankfully, both ChatGPT and Claude became available like a few months ago or half a year ago. Claude wasn't, but now it is. I've noticed that there is slight differences in what you have available in terms of settings within ChatGPT. I think, for example, memory is limited depending on where in Europe you are. In terms of the data you collect, so most of the data that I shared was publicly available data that I've used within my examples. And in this case, it's absolutely fine to use it. Obviously, again, like it's totally dependent on your context. So if you ask me, hey Joe, like I have a whole database of all of my customers with their name, identifiable email addresses, their personal data and all of that, shall we put it in ChatGPT? The answer is better not do that, not advisable. If you have just a snapshot of, okay, my audience is males 40%, female 60%, they are blah, 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 and you feed that's fine, right? So the whole thing about data. Is it publicly available? If it is, fine. If it's again identifiable, like a customer identifiable data, don't use it. And also think about what plan you're using, for example, for something like ChatGPT. If you're using just a plus plan, then you have to know about data privacy, because some of the data that you use, for example, to feed and train the model, can be then used to train the larger model. So if you don't want that, don't use it. If you're on the team or enterprise level, then that's not an issue. But again, every time you use any sort of AI tool, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, or a third-party extension, think about that you are giving that data to a third party. So if you wouldn't share it to the whole wide world, think whether this is the right place and you also want to upload it. So boring stuff.
Great tips and feedback. I'm probably a little more loose than you when it comes to what data I put on those tools. But even on ChatGPT Plus, the regular version, you can request to not train on your data. There's a place on ChatGPT somewhere in the settings to do that. And then you have to send them an email, and then they get you a confirmation that they're not going to train on your data. So even on the Plus version, you can do that. Claude does not train on your data. Gemini Pro sometimes does. But the main thing is, before you use any problematic information, go and check the specific terms and conditions at that time, because whatever I'm saying right now might change tomorrow for any of these tools. But there's definitely ways to have it not train on your data and still be use it for most of the stuff. And as Joe said, just use common sense. If you're not gonna put this on your website, then that's probably a good idea why you don't want to put it on ChatGPT either. Joe, again, thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic. I think this is such a critical aspect, and you give us really a very good overview and tools and prompts and everything people need in order to get started to do this. So I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who joined us. We had more than a few people on LinkedIn Live and a lot of people here on the Zoom that were active and asking questions. And so I appreciate you taking the time and spending a whole hour with us. Most of the people stayed for the full time, which is amazing, and I appreciate that. If you haven't joined us, as I mentioned, come join us next time. We do this almost every Thursday. And until then, have an amazing rest of your day. Bye, everyone.